Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important segment, and I wish I didn't have to do this segment, but this is an article in Fox News. Historic West Virginia Catholic Church burned to the ground, police say. St. Coleman Catholic Church is only the most recent church to face an arson attack. Now that is in West Virginia. Historic church. Catholic Church in Fairfax County, Virginia, hit with graffiti, possible arson after Roe v. Wade ruling. So the historic church in West Virginia, completely destroyed. Then you have a similar event in Virginia. Then you have structure fire at Raleigh County Church to be investigated as arson. And this is, I believe, in North Carolina. And my question is, where's the outrage? Where's the outrage, and what kind of diabolical, despicable, insidious, Democratic Party inspired, because it's inspired by a political party, okay? And they did the same thing with Trump. They said, oh, it's his rhetoric. His rhetoric has led to this and that. It's like, well, they had a hard time proving that his rhetoric led to anything, especially when he used the word peaceful. Okay? Go peacefully. Very tough to be the mastermind of something heinous when you use the word peaceful. Okay? But when you have AOC, when you have Congresswoman Waters, when you have another California Democrat that was just, she was quoted while she was interviewed by Fox News, they asked if she condemned the chaos and mayhem and vandalism and destruction of buildings and all of this. She said, well, something to the effect of, oh, I think people should do what they think is necessary, something like that. I mean, you have an entire political party and the media apparatus that props it up saying the Supreme Court is illegitimate. Okay? Trump, could you imagine if Trump said the Supreme Court was illegitimate? So you have a breakdown of society, and then you have groups or individuals either that vote Democrat or linked to the Democratic Party destroying Catholic churches. Where's the outrage? Doing so because the rhetoric from AOC and others, Nancy Pelosi, this isn't like the dog whistle that they kept on trying to accuse Trump of, because they couldn't really get Trump on anything. They couldn't get him on his tax returns. They couldn't get him on anything, so they had to create and fabricate things that he was really meant when he said things that had nothing to do with what they were accusing him of. But now you have churches being destroyed. And the same people like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, have they condemned this? And I just listed 3. There are more churches throughout the country. And what is so absurd and so sad and pathetic is that you have the most ignorant people who don't understand that Clarence Thomas and the other Supreme Court justices did not base their decision on religion. It had nothing to do with religion. It had to do with the Constitution. The Supreme Court interprets the Constitution. You learn this in 8th grade. Okay? The judicial branch of government interprets the Constitution. And you've had Supreme Court decisions that if the majority of the American public, gave their opinion on, we wouldn't have the civil rights movement. If this was just majority rule or based on public opinion polls, we wouldn't have the civil rights movement. We wouldn't have desegregated schools. We wouldn't have, the rights that we have now, because it's not about the popular vote. It's not about, these justices were nominated by presidents who didn't win the popular vote. Well, so what? You have every conceivable advantage from all of media, social media algorithms, sorry. And you knew the rules of the game. You knew the political rules. You knew that if you didn't win 2016, and if you cheated, you're the only candidate who could have defeated Trump, who would have, at that point, in my view, defeated. And I think Trump is great president, foreign policy, great president, economic policy, infinitely better than mashed potato brains we have. Mashed potato brains Joe is a terrible, terrible president in so many ways. But his political party propping everything up, the political party behind him is even worse. And you have a situation where you cheated Bernie Sanders, who would have defeated Trump. I support Trump and DeSantis, but I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Okay? And I can tell you, back then, Bernie Sanders would have defeated Trump. Okay? Then they would have had three liberal Supreme Court justices. By the way, really quickly, I'm going to have a live stream tonight at around 8 p.m. Pacific. So be here for the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Be here for the live stream. I'm going to try to do live streams pretty much every night. I'll try to. We'll see. But be here for the live stream. If you want to support my work, my Patreon is below, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to give a super thanks to any of these segments, the super thanks button is right next to the like and the share button. Share this segment everywhere, especially with people who are interested in this travesty. How can you have historic West Virginia Catholic Church burned to the ground? St. Coleman Catholic Church was already a smoldering ruin when firefighters from the Beaver Volunteer Fire Department arrived to the scene Sunday morning. The church was built in 1878. My God, it was declared an official historical site in 1984. So, and it's like you have another church in Virginia, a church in North Carolina. Why is this happening? It's happening because you have very ignorant, angry people who know that despite every single possible advantage, they just can't get what they want. And the reason is not because of the Catholic Church. It's not because of Trump. It's not because of Republicans. It's because the Democratic Party is so utterly corrupt and weak and ineffective and unable to give its constituents, voters, anything in terms of an ideological victory. In recent years, at least. Okay? You got everything you want, Democrats. You have the House, the Senate. You codify Roe v. Wade. You don't have the votes. Do it. I mean, you have AOC yelling into a megaphone. Okay? It's not going to work. Nobody cares about that. It's only good for fundraising for AOC and for Democrats. Nobody cares about the anger and frustration because there's anger and frustration on both sides of the political divide. But it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the Constitution. The medical procedure is not part of the Constitution. And so they're not saying you can't get it done. They're saying it's up to the states, which is what the Constitution intended. Anything that's not the enumerated powers or rights of the Constitution goes to the states. That's and then you have this like absolutely just vapid argument. Well, what about firearms? Like, well, the Second Amendment is pretty clear. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Then you had one person, a former ESPN host, said, well, it doesn't say own. Like, well, they didn't speak the way you speak or the way we speak. So they express themselves in a different manner. Pretty clear cut, though. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? You have every possible advantage. Jimmy Kimmel, late night, social media algorithms, all of media, the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, New Yorker, New York Magazine, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone, BuzzFeed, Daily Beast, everyone, Mother Jones, The Nation, Vice, Every article in every one of those publications, Trump bad, Democrats good. Trump, horrible, Democrats fighting for democracy. I mean, you can't. I mean, you cheated Bernie Sanders, the one person who could have defeated Trump, and then you blame the Catholic Church, you blame Trump, you blame Republicans. Why don't you look in the mirror? For once in your life, look in the mirror, accept responsibility. Look in the mirror. You cheated Bernie Sanders. That in 2016, the hubris, the arrogance, the narcissism, fall in line, or else they'll take the Supreme Court from us. Well, that didn't work. And they should have known it wouldn't have worked if you cheated and it wasn't a fair and neutral primary. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. Elizabeth Warren, who is now complaining about the Supreme Court, or as Bernie would say, opining, or what is it, moaning about the Supreme Court. He used that. He used that. Oh, she was very good to him also about, saying that he said something about Clinton or whatever. But, and then she ran against him. Gee, what a coincidence. 4 years later, she ran against him. That's interesting. Same platform, but she's going to run against him. Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty fair. Anyway, she admitted, along with Donna Brazile, that Bernie Sanders was cheated. So you did it to yourselves. You could have had 3 liberal justices, and you wouldn't have said the Supreme Court was illegitimate because you would have had exactly what you wanted. But that's the way they roll. They only roll like the way they work is if it works their way, it's democracy and it's goodness and happiness and it's legitimate. If it doesn't go their way, it's illegitimate. It's a prejudiced Russian operative who, did something to dog whistle and influence the mind of impressionable Trumpers. And but see, again, this is like, if you're targeting any religious site, especially the Catholic Church, understand it has nothing, this ruling has nothing to do with religious interpretation. They're allowed to have their viewpoint on Roe v. Wade just like you are. Doesn't mean they're going to go ahead and the media makes a huge deal of clinics on the pro-choice side being picketed or being God forbid, vandalized. But not to the extent of what we're seeing now with these Catholic churches. So it's interesting, too, how Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden are silent on this. Why are they silent? Shouldn't they be at the forefront of protecting Catholic churches? Shouldn't they? Okay. I would try to be at the forefront of protecting synagogues if I had that political power. But apparently they don't care. It doesn't suit them politically. So, anyway, to the Catholic churches, God bless you. And it's just a terrible, terrible thing. It doesn't even, this is the one thing also the left doesn't understand. And I was on the left my whole life, up until the past 4 years or so. They think that their indignation, their outrage, their feelings, their emotions, they think it's an actual political tool. They don't understand that there are human beings with the same feelings and emotions on the opposite end of the political spectrum. Right now, they have to actually, instead of vandalize and burning historical churches and screaming at the top of their lungs and protesting and all this stuff, they lost the political battle in the Supreme Court when they cheated Bernie Sanders. They could look in the mirror and make sure that their primary is in a complete farce and theatrical performance. But they won't ever do that because the DNC, in their minds, is more legitimate than the actual Supreme Court. This is while they're calling Trump an authoritarian. They have media, intelligence agencies, and they now despise the Supreme Court. Who are the authoritarians? Really, but you have to know something about history, though, so they're ignorant of history, too. I wrote a Jerusalem Post op-ed. It's below in the description on AOC and how she distorted history and how Yad Vashem had to refute her absurd statement on Twitter, and it's just unbelievable. But anyway, If this happened, let's put it this way: there's no greater national security issue domestically than when Democrats don't get their way. And of course, government agencies can't admit to that. Of course, media can't admit to that. Okay, and that's why they're silent on all of this. That's why please share this segment everywhere. I'll put the links below in the description. And that's just 3 churches, and that's not even counting pro-life centers that throughout the country have been the vandalism, it's like the arson, the destruction of buildings. What does this accomplish? Then there's this mentality of, if we're not safe, you're not safe. It's like, no. The Supreme, here, this, like, you have to speak very slowly so they understand. The Supreme Court decision doesn't make you unsafe. So there's not a direct line. There's not a direct line between the Supreme Court decision and you. There's a lot of different things in between. For example, also, how you decide to conduct your life. That's, God forbid, also one issue. And so they make absurd leaps of logic to justify their criminal and immoral activity while they claim to be the most moral. I mean, these people actually believe they believe if they vent their anger and frustration, that's a moral act. They're completely delusional. But at the same time, they need to understand that even though the FBI sides with Democrats and media, at the end of the day, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has almost certainly infiltrated every group, left and right. And that's what they have to do. It's like they have to do that. They shouldn't have done it with civil rights organizations, but the Homeland, Bureau, they've infiltrated everything. They know exactly what's going on, almost certainly in most cases. In most cases, not all cases. Not all cases, of course. But these groups on the left think they're acting with impunity, and they have the tacit approval of Democrats and government. Well, they have the tacit approval of Democrats, but they don't actually have the tacit approval of government because they keep pushing the envelope. It's not Trump in office like 2 years ago. Now it's Democrats, and November is around the corner. They keep pushing the envelope, committing more and more criminal acts at the behest or with tacit approval from Democrats. They'll go to prison just as fast as anyone on the right. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Terrible, terrible, terrible thing. And God bless all the people suffering right now from this vandalism and this, these horrible criminal acts. Give me your thoughts. Thank you so very, very much. Be here tonight at 8 p.m. for the live stream.